this show just gets better every episode, I feel like.
Well, it kind of brings you like to situations that I don't remember. Of course, I mean, I wasn't alive at the time, but um, I never, realized there was a time when she was bigger than him.
Yeah, and that's a point that I'm going to get to later on. You know, I know we were kind of wondering, would she have been as big, but there's a lot of times she packed the career because she had
Oh
to.
yeah, I mean
You
for
know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
And this episode, we're going to hold on, basically shows that in so many ways. And there's probably a lot of other times that there's been a lot of stuff that happened just like that that the world just didn't know about. And had we have had social media and her do the event in Vegas, it would have been all over the news, you know?
That'd have probably been the end of them.
Yeah, exactly. And like George, even though he's a legend, he's really not judged the way that artists nowadays are judged because there's so many phones around.
So, truth be told, George Jones, the possum, was a spoiled brat.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And
Like, I wouldn't have liked him.
it's starting to really come out, you know.
Yeah.
So first off, the first show note that I have, I just cannot get over how they did not pick Peanut to play George. He's got his height, he's got that older look that George had back then. Peanut would have been a great George Jones.
That's
Don't get
Walter
me wrong.
Goggins. He's a
Yeah,
great actor.
yeah, and the guy who's playing him now is a good actor too. Nothing bad about his acting, but if you look at the two, Peanut looks so much more like you.
Yeah.
So what a wild ride. Seems she could have, I don't know. It was baby time in this episode around the 70s. Did you notice he was more worried about his wardrobe?
Yeah.
And the avocado green.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any event in your life where you would really be stressed about what you were wearing versus welcoming your child into the world?
If it is a comparison of that, no. I've wore the same shirt to each of my child's birth. It's a baseball shirt. I've wore it both times.
For luck?
But well, I guess I
Or
wore it the
was it a
first time. The second
coincidence?
time, well, it was comfortable, and I was afraid I was going to be there all day. So, like, I love this shirt. I'm just going to wear it, and everything went so smooth the first time. I was like, well, I might as well try it again and see if it works. So, if it happens again, odds are I'll wear it then too. But
Oh, if it happens again.
yeah, if it were.
Okay. Well, the waiting room, the only thing that reminded me of today was there was a lot of people there. And that's like with my children, my entire family, they all come out, brothers, sisters, and their kids and all that. And it seemed pretty common, except the fact that it was in the 70s and you could smoke in the waiting room, you could have KFC and a guitar picking going on,
Right.
But what I didn't see
that
was
kind
a
of
lot of
reminded me.
paparazzis.
Yeah. That reminded me. My first, son was born in 2018. My second one, was born in the middle of, COVID. So there wasn't anybody in the waiting room during, the second one. The first one, we didn't have time for anybody to get there. That's how quick my first one came. I think we were at the hospital for an hour before she went into labor, like, labor.
Yeah.
So it was all really quick. But like that crowd reminded me the first time one of my friends in my friend group from high school and college, he was the first one to have a kid. And I remember we were all in there with his whole family, his wife's whole family, and I'm not good in those, situations because I say things that are, pretty inappropriate, and things like I remember one thing I said, for instance, yeah. So the whole time we were all talking about, well, you know, he's expecting a daughter, so they were all excited about that. I said, or it could be a son, and they were like, well, what do you mean? Because yeah, we had the whatever it's called, and like you could, clearly see it wasn't a boy. I said, well, unless it's like it's daddy and it's got something really, really small, it wouldn't show up
Wow.
on the ultrasound. And
Yeah.
I said that, of course, it's just a big, room full of all my friends and all their wives and girlfriends. And around the corner is his wife's mom and sister.
You're a hell of a person to invite to an event.
They all got so tickled. Like it made it really awkward.
Yeah, I would say so.
And then
So,
after she was born, I said, I can't wait till I see my buddy. I'm not gonna say his name just for because I don't want to call him out, but like I can honestly say I've seen his daughter naked.
oh my gosh.
So,
All right.
but anyway,
So,
back to George and Tammy.
yeah, so as they're welcoming a child into the world, which is one of the greatest gifts that God gives, she gets some bad news. She's going to have a hysterectomy. And this is so common how people end up becoming addicts. You know, the doctor easily just ups the dose, especially back then.
Right.
It wasn't as big of a deal as it is nowadays. I mean, nowadays you can hardly get a doctor to write you what they wrote back then.
Oh yeah,
So,
there's no way you can get one now to do that.
and I mean, she's leaning on a doctor, which is went to school and got a degree to do what he does. So she's trusting it. And
Right.
she's thinking, okay, well, if he ups it, I can handle it. So
Mhm.
as we see, she starts down that road. And I think it's going to get a little bit more of a picture of it as we go. But yeah,
Sure.
so that's
This
how
is
that
just the
happens.
beginning. Yeah, this is just the beginning of it. And obviously Sweeney Todd was the one who performed the hysterectomy because he scissored her up pretty bad. So
Yeah.
obviously since she's in that much pain, but
Yeah, and we also come to find that sucking on his teeth is a
yeah.
clear sign that he's about to put a drunk on.
Well, and if you know anybody who's an alcoholic or anybody who is dependent on some kind of chemical, to put like that, everybody has a like a, I guess, a poker sign, basically
Yeah.
that something's needing to happen. I've been around people and you can see little ticks in their characteristics. They're like, something's going on. Either they are on it then or they want to be on
Yeah.
you know so
Well, and another side that we got to see that I really have not found on the internet or any books about George Jones is how abusive that his father truly was. I mean, he was so abusive that when he went to live with his brother-in-law and there was an accident that he would have normally got the hell beat out of him for, his brother-in-law embraced him with love and saying, man, it's all right. Yeah,
yeah,
and like George didn't know how to take that because up until that point, he lived with an
mhm,
alcoholic. All he knew was getting the hell beat out of him. And his
yeah,
daddy used to make him sing, like sing because I'm down and out, I'm blue, I'm pissed off, and that is your job, son. That's it.
yeah.
So you
It's kind
know.
of one of them things where you have to really, go through hell in order to master something.
Yeah,
Like, everybody who's extremely talented at, something is usually because they had to go through hell in order to get to that point.
absolutely.
So I think it is one of the, characteristics of greatness.
Yeah. And
So
he did say happy at home doesn't make hits. His manager did when he met him. We get to see the picture of the notorious John Deere green tractor that George Jones loved to
yeah,
ride around. And the manager came and he basically said, "Hey, you're letting Tammy pay all the bills because she's getting it done and you're not doing nothing, you
yeah,
know? And this is when the number is brought up. Now, in 1970, they got an advance from Vegas for $750,000. In today's time, that exact figure is $5.7 million. If it
yeah.
was if it was today, and they got
Mhm.
that much, I mean, that's a lot of money back then.
It is. And I want to point something out. If you were dealing with anything in Las Vegas that had anything to do with a casino in the 70s or before that, even up until the late 80s, early 90s, all that was being ran by the mafia. All of it.
I could
So
tell.
all the
I could
people,
tell.
yeah, all
Mm,
those people who ran Las Vegas during that time were connected, like extremely, extremely connected into the mafia.
well,
So I'm sure George was probably on a list for a little while because in their eyes he screwed them over.
yeah,
She kind of pulled him out of it, I think. And then when he showed up, that probably helped. But I wouldn't have I wouldn't have been surprised if it hadn't have went the way it went, if Mr. Jones wouldn't have got knocked off.
well, I mean, we've seen it with Elvis too. It was around the same time frame in that 70s when Vegas was kind of the place to go.
Yeah.
And Elvis, he kind of took a raw, well, his manager took a raw
Mhm.
deal because he was in with the wrong people.
Yeah.
So I believe if I was an artist, I would stay out of Vegas. Even now, I mean, there's not a lot of good that come from Vegas. Besides, you got like the Shania Twain and the Garth Brooks who puts on like they're gonna be there for four
Yeah.
months.
Mm.
That's about the only thing good about Vegas. Have you
Well,
ever been?
there's a lot good about Vegas. I mean, now at the time there wasn't. There is now. You have these little, residencies, and they bring in tourists from all over the world who come in at all times of the year because it doesn't ever get cold. So like they always have it like an influx of people,
Yeah,
thousands of people just coming in. There are UFC fights, there are boxing matches,
yeah,
there is now an NFL team there. There's always something going on. And if you are a musician, it is an easy place to make money.
yeah,
Because there's got to be a ton of people that are going to come to your show. It's just a matter of at that time. I'm not sure if I would have made that choice. I probably would have once I seen the money because I'm sure they weren't making that anywhere else.
no.
You know,
And which also puts him into a downhill spiral, as we know. It was pretty funny when he was getting fitted and he's not understanding what a stylist does.
mm-hmm.
And, just another moment of there's probably not a lot of people that are in the service industry that met George that said that they had a good experience because of
Right.
as of so far, he's treated almost anybody who works with him or for him like shit. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any
I,
good stories.
I have to say, like when they were showing Georgia and all that, he was so worried about that show in Las Vegas. It reminded me of somebody. Do you want to know who it reminded me of?
Who?
You.
How?
he was overthinking all of it.
Oh well. Yeah.
Like he was beating himself up
Yeah, he
constantly
was.
over that show. He was so nervous and it
Mhm.
tore up. It reminded me of you.
Yeah. Your internet must be awful because you're coming and
That
going
must be.
sometimes. It's like when you're in the middle of a good story, it's no
Mm.
there. All right, I think you're
No.
back. So this puts him in the spiral where he starts drinking. He hitches a ride. Now, can you imagine driving down the road and seeing George Jones drunk out of his mind? And then they take a cow prod to get him on the plane. And then even one of his
Mm.
band members say, George doesn't even know where George is. You
Yep.
know?
It was Peanut.
Yeah. And then he ends up in in Vegas. He finally makes it there. He's drug out by security to dry out. And this is kind of when George Ritchie kind of begins to start that little extra of a friendship because Tammy didn't have anybody around her that she could trust. And here's George Ritchie. He's I don't think he's advancing on purpose. I can almost see how they fell in love without it being like he was trying to take George's wife. It just kind of happened. I mean, she's needing a man, and here he is. And I don't know if you guys already know this, but that's who she eventually marries and is with till the day she dies, George Ritchie, which is a great actor too. The guy who's playing him.
Yep.
And then as they're sitting in the hotel room, like most great country songs, an experience is turned into a song with We're Gonna Hold On. And I believe they try. And I'm looking forward to the rest of this series. We got 3 more episodes. And I tell you what, man, I mean, most marriages do go through a lot, but it seems like they had a little bit of extra shit thrown on them. You know,
Well,
it would have been hard no matter what.
Yeah, when you're in that status, they're in spotlight on them and all the extra stuff that they had going on in between them.
Yeah.
That's hard to deal with.
He did say one remark, and I can't remember where it was, but George was talking to somebody, and he's like, "Yeah, Tammy and her strays took up her kids before, you know." But I really think, a lot of people say when George sung "He Stopped Loving Her Today," was it for Tammy or was it for Nancy, who helped him get sober, who helped him find the Lord? I mean, I don't think the world will ever truly know who he meant that was to in the end, because I know he loved Tammy.
I don't think he meant it for anybody. He didn't write it.
No, he didn't write it, but when you sing it over and over, it's on his gravestone, of course. Yeah. But if that was my song, I feel like I would have dedicated it to my wife. Now, which one? I don't know. But if you had to pick one wife that he had a relationship with, which one would you think that, okay, this is who he thinks about when he sings her, when he sings it?
I don't know.
So
it could have been somebody who wasn't even in the spotlight. He was never married to,
Oh yeah, some groupie somewhere.
There's
no yeah. I'm telling you, I mean, he's a legend and he's one of a kind. But Kenny Chesney one time said, you don't always want to meet your heroes. And I've met one of mine so far. Actually, I met him twice. And I was really excited, and I'm going to say it just because I don't care. But I was a huge fan of him, talking about like one night I listened to every song that he ever wrote that was on YouTube. Massive fan. And when I met him, he was a complete jerk. And that was Corey Smith.
Yeah. I could see that.
And I mean, I know that these artists, they're human beings. They're not going to be in a perfect mood all the time. But when you meet somebody twice and they are, it is what it is. So, Anyways, that's my wrap on it. I still stand behind. I think Tammy would have been a massive star. Now, would she have been as big as Garth or Shania? Probably not, but she would have been Miranda Lambert, no doubt. Yeah, at that status.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
the more and more I get to learn, I don't think George helped her much at all. I mean, she was the brains
At
behind
least
it.
not
She
in the
was the one
beginning.
that showed up. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. At least not in the beginning. In the beginning, it seems he just kind of was on autopilot and he wasn't doing anything really. He was just playing his old stuff. And
And
she
he
was the one that was, making all the moves, writing all the songs, doing all the, you know, the things that, stars do. She was doing it. He wasn't doing anything.
and
So
I really feel like he could have been burned out. I mean, his first hit was in
possibly.
55. She met him in 68. That's 13 years
Hmm.
later. You know, he could have
Yeah,
been burned out, you know, because he's on this
possible.
tractor living the life of, okay, I've done it all, I've seen it all. I'd be perfectly fine with just mowing this yard.
Yeah.
But she wasn't.
Yeah.
She was rocking.
Right.
So,
Hmm.
anyways, we're halfway there, folks. That's all I
Yeah.
got.
Me too. Everybody remember to like, share, rate, review, follow. Join us on our Facebook group and tell your friends. And until then, until next time, hasta mañana.